Hello friends of the electrified charging fun and welcome to the comprehensive used car guide for the Škoda ENYAQ iV. If you're looking at a pre-owned electric vehicle, it's hard to ignore the ENYAQ. But once you start digging into the details, you quickly notice the complexity, trims and versions and software and battery, a maze of labels, packages and running changes, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. In this video, I bring you everything together so you can decide with confidence whether a used ENYAQ is right for you or not. We cover technology and software, batteries and equipment, along with typical issues and concrete checks for your inspection. Because buying an electric car differs from buying a combustion model, I'll explain the key terms and relationships as we go. This gives newcomers and those switching from petrol or diesel the context they need to judge what matters. And much of this in this video is based on my own experience and the feedback from my community, from you, who sent me up to 500 emails a month. I've been following Škoda's electric transition since the launch of the ENYAQ in November 2020. I observed every stage of its development, and I drive an ENYAQ myself. Of course, I've already produced hundreds of videos about it, and you might know them. Some people even call me Mr. ENYAQ. I've been in close contact with the team in Mladá Boleslav for years while remaining fully independent, and that is important because this video is not sponsored by Škoda. Recently, I've received more and more requests for guidance on buying a used ENYAQ, especially the first generation. And that's the perfect moment to examine this topic in full. Let's begin. But before we start, just a brief note. This video required extensive research. Much of the original material is difficult to find today. I worked through old catalogs and price lists. I browsed through forums and searched my whole archive of emails from all over the years. Everything here reflects my best knowledge and judgment, but I cannot guarantee absolute accuracy or completeness. Because there are also a lot of market-specific differences, sometimes with varying names or standard equipment. And reconstruction of those for every European market is simply not possible. Therefore, this video relies on the German market more than on other markets. Because this video, the original one, was done for my German channel, and I never had the intention doing an English version, yet I got a lot of requests for it. Therefore, some overlay information for software or certificates are in German because I do not have any alternative material. This video is long because it's a lot of things I have to explain. You will find chapter markers down under the video for a quick navigation, so you can jump directly to the sections most relevant for you. And you can read and find a lot of information from this video on my website in the buying guide sections. Many details are easier to visualize there, and you will also find downloads such as a checklist. Before we get into the details, let's clarify what counts as the first generation of the ENYAQ and why this matters when you are looking at a used model. The first ENYAQ was built from November 2020 until autumn 2023. That sounds like only 3 years, but it includes a significant number of changes because Škoda updated the model year after the factory summer break, usually in September or October, but that may vary as well. This means a car built in summer 2021 is still a model year 2021. But a car built from October 2021 might already be a model year 2022. And from autumn 22 onwards, you're looking at a model year 2023 and so on. These designations matter because equipment, software and charging performance changed with each model year. They allow you to search more precisely as used cars are usually listed by registration date and not by model year. This is also why the second generation ENYAQ, introduced in October 2023, is classified as model year 2024. At the launch in November 2020, the ENYAQ iV range consisted of the 50, the 60 and the 80. These numbers were intended to reflect the battery size and therefore indirectly power and range. In June 2021, the ENYAQ 80X joined the lineup as the first all-wheel drive version. And in January 2022, the ENYAQ Coupe arrived as the 80 and the 80X. Technically, it was identical to the SUV variant, but with a slightly sloping rear. The result looked sportier without being a traditional coupe, to be honest. At the start of 2023, Škoda added the ENYAQ RS, both as SUV and coupe. It was the performance variant with more power and a specific design, and it was only built for a short period with the first generation. I will cover the available trims such as Sportline and the special editions later in the chapter on equipment and packages. In total, the first generation included 2 body styles, SUV and coupe, and 5 model variants, 50, 60, 80, 80X and RS. All carry the IV label, which Škoda uses for intelligent, inspiring, innovative vehicle. Technically, all models share the same rear motor, the APP 310. The number refers to the motor's maximum torque of 310 Nm. All-wheel drive versions add a second motor on the front axle. Power output is directly linked to the battery size, so the ENYAQ 50 had 109 kilowatts, 148 horsepower, 60, 132, 180 horsepower, 80, 150 kilowatts, 204 horsepower, 80X, 195 kilowatts or 265 horsepower, and the RS with 220, 299 horsepower. The batteries were listed with gross and net capacity, which causes confusion. Gross refers to the technical maximum, which is limited in use to protect the cells. The relevant figure is the net capacity, as this is usable. There were 3 battery sizes. The 50, which had 52 kilowatt-hours net capacity, the 60 with 58 kilowatt-hours net, and the 80, 80X and RS with 77 kilowatt-hours net capacity. Top speed is 160 kilometers an hour across all variants except the RS, which reaches 180. To help you place used models more accurately, it is worth taking a brief look at the successor generation. From October 2023, the second generation entered production with major changes, a new motor, new battery cell chemistry, and a complete updated infotainment hardware platform. The software also moved to a new architecture, that is why it is not compatible with the first generation. Visually, the car looked almost identical at first. You can recognize them by the Škoda lettering on the tailgate, and instead of the logo and the removal of the IV badge. But the visual facelift with the new tech deck front arrived in January 2025. So from October 2023, the models were renamed to 85, 85X and RS, while the 60 kept its name. The 50 was discontinued. This technically improved generation is not part of this video and will receive its own dedicated guide in due course. When talking about the first generation ENYAQ, one topic inevitably comes up, and it's the software. It shaped these cars more than anything else, I guess. Alongside the drivetrain, it is the core of the vehicle, and in the first generation it was also the source of many still ongoing discussions. For anyone switching from a combustion engine, it can be surprising how central software is in an electric car. It controls far more than navigation or infotainment. It manages energy use and charging performance and many of the comfort functions. As a result, it has a major influence on how smooth and pleasant the car feels in daily use. The earliest ENYAQ models were delivered with software version 2. This was eventually replaced entirely by software version 3. All vehicles that originally ran software version 2 can be updated and should have received the upgrade already. The major update to that software version 3 arrived in summer 2022 and had to be installed at the workshop. It is free of charge for the customer. The current version is 3.7 or, to be more precise, 3.8. You can check this yourself in the vehicle menu under Software Information or ask the dealer. If you see an older version, insist on an update before purchase, ideally before handover. The reason is quite simple. If anything goes wrong during the update, the responsibility lies with the dealer, and if the car needs longer to repair, you still have the option to walk away from the sale. Whether there will be further updates for the first generation is unclear. There is no official statement. Realistically, you should assume that version 3.8 is the final release. And with that, a recurring topic is the battery preheating functionality, also called preconditioning. This heats the high-voltage battery before a fast charging session so it can charge at maximum speed. First-generation ENYAQ models do not have this feature. Whether it will ever be added via an update is doubtful, given that the model has been on the market for 5 years and the feature is still missing. This is noticeable mainly in winter, when a cold battery charges more slowly. I explain the effects in detail later in the battery chapter. There is also a specific point for ENYAQ ATX owners, because these vehicles originally delivered with software 2 did not receive the traction mode when updated to software version 3. This mode distributes power evenly to both axles up to around 20 km an hour and is helpful when setting off on slippery surfaces. ATX models delivered from the factory with software version 3 have these modes as standard. During your test drive, check whether traction appears in the drive mode settings if this function is important for you. Besides the in-car software, the online services also matter. On the shop, you will find the active licenses. 2 are especially relevant: Škoda Care Connect and Škoda Infotainment Online. Care Connect includes features such as the emergency call function and remote access via the My Škoda app, which lets you preheat the car or start charging. This license usually runs for 10 years, but you should still confirm it because it may vary in your market. Infotainment Online is valid only for 3 years. It provides real-time traffic data, online map updates, and information on charging points and parking. If the licenses have expired, you can renew them for a fee or use it as a negotiation point for the purchase. For smartphone connectivity, the ENYAQ supports both wired and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as normal Bluetooth. Test this during the test drive with your own phone, as compatibility varies. Also check the status report in the vehicle menu. There should be no active faults. In the ENYAQ, with all those user profiles, there is always a primary user. This is effectively the owner or the administrator of the vehicle. Make sure the car is reset to factory settings at purchase so you can register as the primary user. If the seller has not done this, you can perform the reset yourself. Existence licenses transfer to the new primary user because they are tied to the vehicle and the vehicle identification number, not to a Škoda account. The most important advice regarding the software I can give you is quite simple. Test it throughoutly. Try every function you will use every day. Radio, navigation, climate controls, assistance systems, cameras, infotainment. Pay attention to how responsive the system is, how fast menus load, and how intuitive everything feels. If something irritates you on the very first test drive, it will only bother you more during daily use. The general rule applies. If it works for you and meets your needs, then it is fine, even if no further updates might ever arrive. The battery is the core of every electric vehicle. It takes more or less the role that the engine once had in the combustion engine car, the thing most to be checked. Its condition determines range, day-to-day usability, and the long-term value of the vehicle. When buying a used ENYAQ, this topic deserves particular attention. This chapter covers 3 areas: battery health, charging performance, and the missing preheating function. A battery ages much like an engine, only through different mechanisms. Aging occurs in 2 ways: through time, known as calendaric aging, and through usage, meaning charge and discharge cycles, so cyclic aging. One cycle means the battery has fully discharged and recharged. With increasing use, the battery loses a bit of capacity, the amount of energy it can store. This is called degradation. To quantify this, we use the term state of health, or SOH. It expresses in percent how much capacity remains compared to a new battery. A new battery is at 100% SOH. A lightly aged one might be around 95%, and the decline is not linear. It drops more noticeably early on, then stabilizes for a long period before falling faster again to the end of its life cycle. When buying a used ENYAQ, always ask for a battery certificate. And there are two types. First, the official Škoda certificate, which showed the SOH and details how much energy was charged via DC and AC, plus how long the battery remained at 100%. These are important indicators of how the battery has been treated. If you want to know more about battery care, there's a dedicated video on the channel. Second, there are certificates from independent providers such as Velo or whatnot. These usually measures only the SOH, but are still very useful. What does that mean in practice? An SOH of 95% or higher is excellent. The battery is essentially like a new one. 90 to 95% is still perfectly acceptable, but should be reflected in the price. And below 90%, you should investigate more carefully. Below 85%, warrants caution, particularly if you plan to keep the vehicle for many years. The assessment reflects the relatively young age of all the ENYAQ models at the time of this video. No ENYAQ is older than 5 years. Škoda's battery warranty covers 8 years or 160,000 kilometers for a minimum SOH of 70%. This is a conservative threshold, as batteries with 70% capacity offers noticeably less range in real use. In practice, the economic end of life for driving purposes is around 80% SOH. Charging and charging speed are more complex topics in the ENYAQ because several changes were introduced across the model years. In principle, the battery can be charged in two ways, with alternating current, AC, such as at a home wall box, or with direct current, DC, at fast charging stations. The ENYAQ supports up to 11 kilowatts AC charging, with one exception. The ENYAQ 50 is limited to two-phase charging with a maximum of 7.2 kilowatts. For everyday use, this is sufficient when charging overnight or during working hours. The more interesting part is DC fast charging. Early vehicles were delivered with only 50 kilowatts as standard. Higher charging performance, known as the extended charging performance, could be unlocked for a one-off fee around 500 euros back in the days. With this option, the 50 and 60 models reached up to 100 kilowatts, the 80 and 80X up to 125 kilowatts. The RS didn't exist at that point. And with model year 2022, this changed. The higher charging rate became standard equipment. If you are considering an early ENYAQ, check the specification or run a short test at a fast charger. Make sure the battery is as empty as possible, ideally below 10%, as the peak charging rate is only reached at low states of charge. If extended charging is not enabled, you have a strong argument for price negotiation. 50 kilowatts is slow in real use. Charging from 10 to 80% takes more than an hour. Software version 3 improved charging performance, by the way, again on many models. ENYAQ 50 remained at 100 kilowatt and it takes around 35 minutes, 10 to 80%. The 60 goes up to 120 kilowatts, but again, 35 minutes. The 80 reaches up to 135 kilowatts, in practice sometimes even 150 kilowatts, and reaches 80% in about 29 minutes. The 80X and RS are going up to 175 kilowatts, yet still take around 35 minutes for charging 10 to 80%. These differences are due to the cell chemistry and the way the battery management system handles temperature. The second generation ENYAQ uses different cells and now charges faster. More on that in the dedicated second generation video. If you buy a first generation ENYAQ, check whether it had the current software and whether extended charging is activated or not. Both make a noticeable difference in real-world driving. To finish this chapter, one more point that is often overlooked but can have a real impact, that is preheating, also known as battery preconditioning. First-generation ENYAQ iV models do not have this function. This means that if you arrive at a fast charger in winter with a cold battery, charging speed drops significantly, sometimes to half or even less of the aforementioned values. How much this affects you depends on how you drive. If you rarely travel long distances or mainly charge at home during winter, you will barely notice it. If you regularly drive on motorways and rely on quick charging stop, it can be a big disadvantage. Unless the battery is very low, ideally below 5%, you will rarely see charging rates above 100 kilowatts in cold conditions. Whether preheating will ever be added via software is unknown. Škoda has not made any announcements yet. If this feature is important to you, you should take into account when deciding which used ENYAQ to buy. When you start looking into the ENYAQ, you encounter one of its most complex topics: equipment. Škoda used a wide range of packages, trims and labels, and these changed several times across the model years. For used car buyers, this can be pretty confusing. First, the basic structure. In the first generation, there were three main variants: the standard model with chrome details, the sporty or sport line, available only as 6080-80X with black exterior accents and sport seats. This applied both to the SUV and the coupe. And the RS, which was not only its own model but also had its own trim, similar to the Sportline but with extra features and its own styling. A special case was the Founders Edition, a limited launch series marked by bronze exterior details and exclusive wheels. It was offered only as the 80X, either in black or Arctic silver, which is a silver tone with a slight green tint. All ENYAQ models can be fitted with 19 to 21-inch wheels. 19 inches were usually standard. Many consider 20 inches the best balance, as they look good without affecting consumption too much. 21 inches are visually striking, but more expensive when it comes to tires and to consumption. The front axle always runs narrower tires than the rear. Inside, Škoda offered several design selection, meaning coordinated interior themes with specific materials and colors. The base interior in the ENYAQ 50 was called Studio. In the ENYAQ 60, 80 and 80X, Loft was standard and available for the 50 at extra cost. Above these, there were optional Lodge, Launch, Suite, Eco-Suite interiors. Lodge used light, sustainable fabrics. Launch combined grey upholstery with yellow stitching. Suite offered dark leather with brown accents. And Eco-Suite used planned tanned brown leather. Sportline had its own sport theme interior with black trim, while the RS gained the RS design selection, which has its own seat design and sportier detailing. Experiences from owners showed that Lodge is particularly durable. Suite was very popular, and Launch had occasionally been reported to show wear more quickly. All interiors are high quality. The difference are stylistic and a matter of personal preference. Now to the core topic, the equipment packages. In the first generation, there were 10 main packages, each available at Basic or Plus. Content varies slightly by model, but each package worked like a modular building block. The convenience package Basic included keyless entry, a wireless phone charger, rear privacy glass, acoustic glazing, and driver fatigue detection. The Plus version added hands-free electric tailgate. The Assistant package Basic offers adaptive cruise control, ACC, lane keeping assist, rear cross traffic alert, and proactive occupant protection. The Plus version added PACC, so the predictive ACC, traffic jam assist, and travel assist. The Park package Basic included front and rear parking sensors and a reversing camera. The Plus version added the 360-degree area view system. The Family package Basic included rear sunblinds, an electronic child lock, a 230-volt socket, and 2 rear USB-C ports. The Plus version added fold-out tables on the front seatbacks, special rear headrests for sleeping, and the blanket. The Climate package Basic offered heated front seats, heated washer nozzles, and 3-zone climate control. The Plus version added heated windscreen and heated rear seats. The Light and View package Basic includes matrix LED headlights, adaptive light control, headlight washers, and an animated rear light. The Plus version added the Crystal Face, the illuminated vertical grille bars that became the defining ENYAQ feature for the first generation. The infotainment package Basic included the navigation system with 3 years of online services. The Plus version added the head-up display. The Comfort package Basic included an electrically adjustable driver's seat with memory and lumbar support. The Plus version added a massage function and the electric passenger seat. The drive package Basic includes pedals for regenerative braking, drive mode selection, a heated steering wheel and progressive steering, whilst the Plus version of the drive package added the adaptive suspension DCC. In addition, there were also individual options available such as the heat pump, the towing hitch or the transport package with adjustable boot floor and luggage nets, or the panoramic roof for the SUV. With model year 2023, Škoda simplified the entire structure. The many Basic and Plus packages were replaced by a new tiered system: Clever, Plus, Advanced and Max. The idea was to standardize content across all variants and make configuration easier. Because the contents were combined differently, comparison with the old packages is only approximate and really hard to do. So roughly speaking, Clever corresponds to a mix of Convenience Basic, Assistant Plus, Climate Basic, Drive Basic and Family Basic. The Plus adds items such as electric tailgate, travel assist, matrix LED, memory seats and similar comfort feature. For me, the sweet spot of all of those. Advanced adds the crystal face, heated rear seats, head-up display and Canton sound system. And Max includes almost everything: electric front seats with massage, 360-degree camera, extended parking and so on. And some of the packages were discontinued and became standard. Sportline and RS models followed their own logic, as they already include sport suspension and progressive steering, black trim and their own design elements, but they also use the new package levels. What does that all mean for you as a buyer? When evaluating a used car's equipment, check the packages' names in the listing. If you see Plus or Advanced, the car usually is well equipped. Even the basic packages include important features such as heated seats, keyless entry or driver assistance systems. And keep in mind that basic still means optional extras. None of these packages were standard. For earlier model years, check carefully. Not every package was available on every variant. Some combinations, such as a crystal face or the massage functions, were limited to larger batteries or specific trims. In the later simplified package structure, the Plus level, not to be confused with the earlier Basic and Plus pairing, is a strong middle ground. It includes matrix LED, travel assist and electric seats, features that noticeably improve daily driving. And one important thing at the end of this chapter: back in the days during the COVID pandemic, there were problems in the delivery chain. So there are ENYAQs out there who has a specific package yet does not include all features. I know this is complex. I'm so sorry about that, but that's just the reality. When considering an electric vehicle, one question comes up immediately: how far can I actually drive? The official range is useful for comparison across manufacturers, but real-world range depends heavily on driving style, season and route profile. The ENYAQ is no exception. Most owners report everyday consumption between 17 and 23 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. This covers a wide range. With mainly urban driving and the smooth driving style, the ENYAQ can operate at around 15 to 18 kilowatt-hours 100 kilometers, and on rural routes 18 to 20 is typical. On the motorway at a steady 120 or 130 kilometers an hour, consumption rises to around 22 kilowatt-hours and can reach up to 25 kilowatt-hours. As with a combustion car, you rarely use the entire energy reserve. Even though the ENYAQ can technically reach 0% on the display with a small buffer remaining, in everyday use you typically operate between 100 to 10%, which means about 90% of usable capacity. And on long journeys you often charge only up to around 80% because those last 20% take much longer. So for estimating real-world range, I therefore use two values: 10 to 100, so 90% of the battery, and 10 to 80, so 70% of the battery used. These estimates also assume a small amount of 5% battery degradation already. Assuming a battery with 95% health and a realistic consumption window between 17 and 23 kilowatt-hours 100 kilometers, the following ranges apply. ENYAQ 50 with around 45 kilowatt-hours usable capacity then reaches roughly 200 to 260 kilometers, or about 155 to 210 kilometers when charging only to 80%. The 60 with around 50 kilowatt hours usable reaches 220 to 300 kilometers or 170 to 230 kilometers from 80 to 10. The 8080X and RS, all the same battery with about 66 kilowatt hours usable, manages around 290 to 390 kilometers or 220 to 300 kilometers on a typical fast charging leg from 80 to 10%. These figures are conservative and reflect average use rather than best-case scenarios. In warm summer conditions without motorway driving, the range can be higher. In cold winter conditions, it could be lower. Therefore, a frequently discussed feature in the ENYAQ is the heat pump. It can reduce energy consumption slightly in winter, usually around 5 to 10%. Its advantage becomes clear on longer journeys and in cold weather. It is a sensible but not essential option. Valuable for frequent motorway drivers in the wintertime, less important if your driving is more local or in mild climates. On the road, the ENYAQ feels balanced and relaxed. Even the basic versions are quiet and most owners describe the suspension as comfortable with a slightly firm tendency. The low center of gravity created by the battery in the floor provides a secure and stable handling. At higher speeds, the car remains composed. The all-wheel drive model, the ATX and the RS, add traction and stronger acceleration, especially from a standstill or on wet surfaces. A pleasant detail is the near-silent acceleration. Many drivers coming from combustion cars find the ENYAQ noticeably calmer and more effortless to drive because there are no gear shifts or rev changes. The drive modes Eco, Comfort and Sport lets you adjust the steering, damping and throttle response, and cars equipped with the adaptive suspension show a slight difference between those modes, although some owners report that the variations can be subtle. Overall, the ENYAQ is an uncomplicated and comfortable electric vehicle with solid driving refinement and realistic range. It is not the fastest charging model in its class, but it is also far from inefficient. If you drive it with awareness of how electric cars behave and understand what you are buying, it can be a dependable companion for many, many years to come. The Škoda ENYAQ is generally regarded as a solid and reliable vehicle. Like almost any vehicle, however, it has a number of known weak points that buyers should be aware of. Many of these come from owner feedback, workshop experience and reports from my own community. The most obvious issues, software and missing battery preheating, have already been covered and they remain among the most frequent criticisms. Interface lag is not unusual even with software version 3, so you have lag when operating it, unfortunately. Beyond that, there are several mechanical and electrical areas worth checking during a viewing or test drive. A common issue concerns the mirror projection lights, the small lamps beneath the wing mirrors that project the vehicle logo on the ground when unlocking and help you to enter the car. If moisture enters the housing, the film inside deteriorates and the projected image becomes blurred. The fuel flap mechanism, specifically the locking pin, can show signs of corrosion or sticking on some vehicles. This is easy to check by opening and closing the flap repeatedly. A revised version of the mechanism resolves the issue. Another point is tire wear. Some early cars left the factory with slightly aggressive alignment settings, causing uneven wear, typically on the inner edges. When viewing a used ENYAQ, check whether the tires are worn evenly. Uneven wear may also indicate misaligned suspension or a more demanding driving style. There have been occasional issues with the headlight leveling system on cars without matrix LED headlights. The automatic leveling stops working and remains fixed in one position. This is easy to spot during a night or test drive and needs to be fixed. The panoramic roof has received some isolated reports of malfunctioning controls. The ambient lighting integrated in the roof frame can also fail. This cause is usually the small control unit mounted within the roof structure. It needs to be replaced. The reversing camera and the optional 360-degree area view system should also be checked. At dusk it becomes clear whether the image quality is acceptable to you or not. The 12-volt battery, which powered the onboard electronics alongside the high-voltage battery, can occasionally suffer from low capacity. Vehicles driven mostly on short trips can experience gradual discharge, as the 12-volt system is charged less frequently than in cars used for longer journeys. It is worth checking its condition and, if necessary, ask for a replacement before the purchase. Because the ENYAQ makes heavy use of regenerative braking, the mechanical brakes are used less often. That reduces wear but can allow the disc brakes to develop light surface rust if rarely engaged. This is normal and can be prevented by occasional firm braking. The rear axle uses drum brakes. They are not sporty, but they are robust and issues are rare. Suspension components such as dampers, drop links and control arms have not shown any pattern of widespread faults. Normal wear occurs with mileage, but there are no recurring design problems. As for servicing, electric cars naturally have fewer wear parts than combustion models, but manufacturers still specify regular inspections. So does Škoda. These focus on brake fluid and filters, air conditioning service and stuff like that. Costs are normally moderate but can vary between workshops, and there have been reports of individual outliers. It is wise to ask for pricing in advance to avoid surprises here. If you're wondering how durable an ENYAQ can be, have a look at my video Mileage King. It features an ENYAQ taxi with over 280,000 kilometers on the clock, running continuously without major failures. It is an impressive demonstration of how robust the overall platform is. The test drive is the most important moment to determine whether a used ENYAQ is the right choice for you or not. Take your time and do not let yourself be rushed, neither by the seller nor by a good first impression. Plan at least 30 minutes, preferably 60. Ideally, include a mix of roads, city, rural, and a short stretch of motorway. This gives you a realistic sense of consumption, noise levels, and how the driver assistance systems interact. Some sellers may find this unusual or react negatively, but there is no reason to accept a shorter test drive than you would expect when buying a new electric car. Start with the features you will use every day. Power up the car, open the menus, and test how smoothly everything responds. Check the infotainment system, its reaction speed, and menu logic. Try the navigation, the radio, Apple CarPlay or Android Auto if you use it, and the climate controls. If you notice the system irritates you after a few minutes, it will certainly bother you in every daily use. Move on to a clear stretch of road and test the assistance systems. Activate Travel Assist and pay attention to the steering wheel hand detection. You will quickly sense if the system is too sensitive for you or too passive for your own preference. Test this in real traffic, not only on a straight empty road. And do not forget to simply drive for pleasure. Accelerate firmly once or twice and listen to the calm, almost silent power delivery. Next, evaluate the camera systems. Depending on equipment, the ENYAQ offers front, rear and 360-degree views. Check the image quality in daylight and if possible in shade or at dusk. This is particularly important if you rely on those systems for tight parking situations. Then, complete a few manual checks. Open and close the charging flap and check that the locking pin moves freely. Inspect the tires for even wear. And check the mirror projection light, the interior lighting, the headlight leveling function. If the car has a panoramic view, check the controls, everything I already mentioned. And as with any other used car, examine the exterior and interior carefully and ask about accident history, repainting or workshop repairs. A very important point is the battery condition. Ask for the official battery certificate as mentioned in the battery chapter of this video. If the seller cannot provide one, have one produced or walk away from the car. Do not rely on the range displayed in the instrument cluster as it can be reset or influenced by recent driving. Check the software version in the menu, it should be 3.7 or 3.8, if not, ask the dealer to install the update before you purchase. It is free of charge and having it done prior to a handover protects you if something goes wrong. Check the digital vehicle certificate and the digital service record. These document maintenance, service history and sometimes recall actions. You can accept them via the My Škoda app if the vehicle is registered there. The app also provides a quick overview of the vehicle's system status, which is useful to identify potential issues. Confirm that charging cables and accessories are complete. A Type 2 cable was included as standard. Some cars may also come with an optional mobile charging unit known as the Universal Charger IV, but they don't have to. Look out for Škoda's simply clever extras. The eye scraper on the umbrella, the washer fluid funnel, not standard in all markets for them, the storage insert. There are a lot of small details, but that can indicate how carefully the previous owner treated the car. You find more of them on my website in the guide. Some items are also useful for negotiation points if the price is firm. Expired infotainment subscription, missing fast charging activation, software updates, missing simply clever features. Many dealers are prepared to include fixes like this as part of the sale. And remember, do not expect the seller to know as much about the ENYAQ as you do after watching this guide. Many dealers had only limited exposure to the early electric models of Škoda, and not everyone is familiar with all those details. The better prepared you are, the easier it is to ask the right questions and assess whether a car truly meets your requirements. The first generation ENYAQ is technically solid, largely well built and pleasant to drive. But it is also limited in one important respect, its software. This is something you should be aware of before making a decision. If you understand this limitation and judge your own expectations realistically, a used ENYAQ iV can be an excellent electric car. Many of the cars now on the market are first-generation lease returns. That usually means good maintenance, reasonable mileage, and a wide range of variants. At the same time, prices are attractive because the second generation with the updated hardware has entered the market a while ago, and electric vehicles still see larger depreciation than comparable combustion models. Also, the facelift now is on the market, which also lowers the prices for the first generation. This combination makes now a favorable moment to buy, as long as you know what you are getting, and you should know it after this video. If you understand the key points from this guide, well, the first generation ENYAQ is not a risk, but a very sensible choice. As with many cars, there are two groups of ENYAQ owners. Some are enthusiastic and tell me they remain fully satisfied even after several years. And others report frustrations, software glitches, and issues that irritate them. And everything in between, of course. My personal advice is this. Make a list of the features that are non-negotiable for you, both practical and emotional. If a car does not meet these points, it will not make you happy in the long run. And once you have your list, go through it calmly during the test drive. Tick off everything that works for you. And if all your criteria are met, well, you have found your car. And if not, keep looking. It is worth waiting for the right vehicle rather than settling for a compromise you will regret later on. In summary, the first generation ENYAQ is a good electric car for its era. It drives well, it is technically robust, and for anyone willing to live with its software limitations, it can offer many years of dependable service. If you prefer a more modern software, improved battery chemistry, features like preheating and a newer infotainment system, the second generation is the better fit, though currently at a much higher price point. I guess this will change from late 2026 and especially in 2027 when the first large wave of second-generation lease returns enters the used market. Ultimately, the question is not whether the first-generation ENYAQ is good or bad, but whether it suits you or not. If you know what you are buying and your expectations are clear, it offers one of the best price-to-value ratios in today's used EV market. If you want to explore the topic in more depth, you will find a detailed written summary of everything of this video on my website, including tables and technical data and further links, everything you need. You will also find extensive answers to common questions and a lot of additional information there. And of course, this channel is full of videos packed with knowledge also on the first generation. One final personal note. I receive many inquiries every month about used ENYAQ purchases. I cannot offer individual purchase advice or assess specific listings. There are simply too many requests, and I am not a certified vehicle inspector. If you have specific questions or need clarification on certain topics, feel free to ask. I will answer as best as I can. It may just take some time due to the volume of messages. If this video has helped you, I would appreciate if you would subscribe subscribe to the channel, leave a like or support my work through the options in the video description. It helps me continue to produce independent content. So see you in the next video, and until then, stay full of energy.